Question in the name of Assembly Member McCartney, Metropolitan Police Budget.
Thank you very much, Joanne. I want to pay tribute to the work that's being done by Bernard Hogan-Howe and again to Stephen. I think they're working very, very well to deal with tough times across the public sector. For the first time in recent history, the MPS has a balanced budget, and will have for the next 3 years. And our priority has got to be keep numbers high, as I've said, at or around 32,000. Make sure the public have access to the police as much as possible, and so in our building strategy, if anything, to improve access for members of the public and to keep crime coming down, and I'm confident that they're embarked on the right programme.
That's very nice to hear, Mr Mayor, but it's not the question I asked. I asked you, will you be joining other PCCs across the country in their calls to the Home Secretary to rethink the government's dangerous strategy of imposing a 20% budget cuts on police forces?
Well, as I've said, we've already gone into bat for London repeatedly. We've secured extra funding for London for last year, for this year. I will continue to do that as and when I think necessary. But clearly, with a big budget such as we have, we've also got to be responsible, as I'm sure you, as a member of the former member of the MPA, would understand, and we've got to bear down on costs where we can.
No one's doubting that you have to bear down on costs, but I'm asking, will you be joining other PCCs across the country in their efforts to lobby the Home Secretary to row back on the 20% cuts to policing? Will you be doing that or not?
What I will be doing is making the case for London, which I always do.
I take that as a no, then.
No, you can't take that as a no. I don't see any particular reason to join other PCCs. I will be making the case for London, and I will be arguing for adequate funding to achieve the objectives that we have.
Mr Mayor, you're arguably the most powerful PCC in the country, responsible for a quarter of the country's policing. Do you not think that you, at the head of a PCC alliance, would actually add extra weight in support of policing?
Well, I certainly look. I mean, if you want me to become the leader of the opposition instead of Miliband, I can see why you might want that. But it seems to be a perfectly reasonable thing for a Labour member to want at this stage. That is not my function. I'm the Mayor of London.
But your function is to stand up for policing.
It is.
After the riots, you stated that in the end there's going to have to be an argument about money with the Home Secretary. Have you actually had that argument? Because from what I'm hearing, your sense of responsibility does not seem to go that far.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you're hearing, or indeed which voices you hear. But my position remains that it's my job, and I have good support in this from all those who work on policing in London, to lobby the Home Secretary, lobby the Home Office for the funding that we need. And we do need considerable funding. You're right to say that. But we've also got to be efficient and to make savings where we can. And it would be irresponsible of me to not to tell you that.
Mr Mayor, you also, in your initial answer, stated that we have to have a good access to police services. And I've asked you before about police front counters, and you've made certain promises. But the proposals coming out of the Met do seem to me, at the moment, to be falling far short of your promises. Let me give you some examples, and this is why I think it's dangerous. I'm glad that you said that Tottenham will retain its police station, but we're still arguing for 24 hours. In Enfield, for example, Southgate Police Station currently gives 60 hours per week. The suggestion is it now gets 4 hours at a local ASDA. Is that, do you think, equivalent? Newham is going to use 296 front counter hours a week, and in Kensington and Chelsea, they're losing at least 148 hours a week. Is that the equivalent?
I will be very happy to give an answer about counters, but I'm conscious that there is a question later on in the order.
I'm happy to have it dealt with now under this.
I'm looking at the chair now for guidance, because I'm more than happy to get into this discussion now and knock that question on the head if that's your wish. But I don't know whether, Chair, it is your wish.
Okay, you can pull it up. But have you finished then the matter of your original question? And
no, but I think it's part of this question too, and I think it fits in with this, because it's about the cuts in the budget.
So we'll
and
roll,
the Mayor, in fact, raised it in his initial answer
we'll
to me
roll these
himself.
together.
If you take the answer now, Assembly McCartney, then you will then, whether you're satisfied with it or not, you'll not go.
Let me try to give you an answer, Joanne, about counters and what we're doing. Nothing is agreed. There is no, as I'm sure you're aware, there are no plans that are set in stone to do anything yet. The principles that I've made clear to the MPS are that whatever the changes we make, Londoners should have access that is at least as good, if not better, than the access they had before. And so where there is, and as I said in my election manifesto, the historic document, if there is a closure, then that facility has got to be replaced one way or another in the vicinity. And just to give you the figures about police buildings in London, police establishment, we have 497 buildings in London that are occupied by the police in one way or another. 497. Of those, 136, Joanne, allow any kind of access by the public to the police. 136. The total cost of those buildings is about £203 million a year. Now, what we're proposing to do is to increase access overall by where we do close buildings or do make changes to the building establishment. The plan is to increase, whatever happens, to increase the access by the public to police officers to about 200 places rather than 136. And that, I think, is the way forward. It will obviously involve saving some money, but I think most members of the public asking themselves whether they want police effectively barricaded in buildings where they are inaccessible to them, or they want them out on the street, where they want bobbies or buildings. I think most people would choose bobbies rather than buildings, and that is going to be our approach.
Mr Mayor, some of the instances I've given you are where police stations are planned to close and the equivalent is not what you've promised, and we want what you've promised. So I'm going to look at that.
Well, I want what you want.
The other issue I want to raise quickly is that your Deputy Mayor has said he's going to go round all 32 boroughs, which is welcome, to consult on the estates programme and the crime. But he's going to...
And what will happen? And I tell you what, Stephen...
Can I finish my question?
Yes, of course.
He is actually only going to be spending 1 hour per borough to do this consultation. Does that equate, in your mind, to meaningful consultation? 1 hour on the policing and crime plan, estate strategy and the new local policing model per borough. Does 1 hour seem sufficient to you?
Well, I think it's a good thing that he's going out to every one of the boroughs. And by the way, just to get
is 1 hour
and in every borough, under any circumstances, there will be, whatever happens, every one of the 32 boroughs, there will be a 24-hour police station. There will be a 24-hour police station. I made that absolutely clear in every borough. And I think it's quite right that Stephen Greenhalgh and his team should be going out on a roadshow, and of course, I know exactly what will happen. Everywhere they go, they will come under a fusillade of politically motivated brickbats from those who say that whatever they're doing is completely wrong and unthinkable. And I'm afraid that is his job, and he will do a first-class job of explaining to people how we intend to make savings and yet to increase access. That's the approach.
But Mr Mayor, I must say 1 hour does not seem as if he's going to listen much.